This is Outsourced Accounting Insights. I am your host, Will Tetreault, where we talk everything outsourced accounting and beyond. I'm here with our guest, Tucker Cutter. Tucker, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Glad to be here, Will.
Tucker, if you would give us a little background on yourself, what got you into the management of information technology, and we'll start there.
Sure. I guess I can go back to college. I've been with BerryDunn since I graduated, so almost 10 years now.
Oh, wow.
So I was working an internship with Walmart. Thought I wanted to be in logistics, kind of moving X to Y to Z. And I had a project that was around trying to get the non-conveyable goods to the customer as fast as possible, really to compete with Amazon.
Yeah.
And so I worked it out. That was my year-long my summer-long project. And at the end of that internship, got a job offer, but figured, so logistics really wasn't for me and where I wanted to be in a kind of a warehouse with no windows for hours a day. But I really did like kind of working on that project and kind of solving a problem. And so that translated nicely to consulting. And so I really looked for a firm that would be a good fit and kind of fell into BerryDunn, or really sought BerryDunn out, I guess. And I've been here ever since.
And so when you did the internship, you were with the MITG group?
No, that was for a different company. That was for Walmart. And then I decided I didn't want to do logistics. Oh, okay. And then since then, I actually ran to BerryDunn at a career fair and kind of sought them out and have been working here within MITG since then.
Oh, so, awesome. Yeah. That's fantastic. And we do have windows here.
Nice windows now. Yeah. Floor to ceiling windows in the office. Great.
Exactly. So MITG, for people who don't know, what is it? And then and maybe delve into just some general services provided by that group.
Sure. So MITG, Management Information Technology Group. And so within BerryDunn, we offer a lot of consulting services. A lot of them are within kind of local, state, government, municipalities, Medicaid. MITG really focuses on higher ed, healthcare, and kind of everything else. So commercial clients. And so we have we offer multiple practice areas, but kind of the services are fairly consistent across them. And so I think they would, kind of how I view it, they fall into 3 or 4 buckets. So you'd think of enterprise systems consulting. So if a client needed to select a new system or wasn't sure if their current system was meeting their needs, or they needed process improvement around that system, we would certainly help them with that. Yeah. Another one is around kind of governance, risk, compliance, think sort of information security, think IT audits, or are they in compliance? Those sorts of things, NIST, HIPAA, like that. And then the third and fourth areas would be around digital and organizational transformation. Yeah. And so that would be around your business process improvement, your change management, kind of organizational design and development. And the fourth and kind of really emerging area for us is around well-being and well-being consulting. So if you think about if companies want to be employers of choice, and I think now that's really an emerging topic that we're seeing a lot of traction in, is around well-being, which is great.
Yeah. And so you mentioned the risk side of it, right? Risk assessments, things of that nature. And I think that, especially with technology today, scares the heck for the sake of the podcast, the heck out of everyone. And so I feel like whenever you're involved in those types of situations, people don't think of it until the breach happens, right?
Absolutely.
And then that's when they're like, oh, I need to have some sort of assessment done. Do you have any recommendations of when people should kind of go into I should employ BerryDunn ahead of time? Like, should they have periodic type assessments done, or is this just a habit when I get breached and
Well, certainly you want to avoid a breach whenever you can, and it's challenging. I mean, people are seeing breaches all the time, even the largest kind of R1 institutions that have tons of resources. But I think really proactively trying to identify vulnerabilities and risks that you have, either from people or systems or anywhere, and kind of doing that proactive assessment and working to mitigate those gaps. But you can't really mitigate them unless you know about them. Right. So I think kind of bringing someone in early to understand what those things are is really helpful, rather than kind of being reactive to a breach.
And do you find that when are you getting these people off? Are you getting them post breach? Do you see any of that, and you have to go back and help, or is it really you're doing the initial assessment?
What would be kind of a pre-breach or pre just, I mean, ideally no breach at all. But I mean, would be more, what is your security posture now? What is your maturity level in terms of information security, and putting together a plan to get them where they want to be? That's kind of where we would come in the process.
And make sure they check all the right boxes so they're limiting liability of that nature.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. And then, so I did kind of like you at the end talked about the well-being side. Yeah. And so you mentioned some of what that looks like, the employer of choice, things of that nature. Yeah. So what other what's the aspects of well-being? I feel like so many people hear well-being and they're like, I go to the gym.
Yeah, honestly, you have to get my colleague Vienna on here. She's very, very passionate about that. But a few things. So I think there is people to think of like the physical fitness of well-being. I think there's the financial well-being. There's sort of the emotional and social well-being. And I think there are five pillars. Yeah, I can't go. You don't have to name all of them. I can't go them off here, but it certainly is more than going to the gym. And I think it's how does that translate to the work environment? And I think now that people are working from home often, and I think we saw the Great Resignation and all these things. People are thinking about how do we keep good people, and how do we make this a place people want to work and people can be their best selves. I think that's really a lot of what Vienna's work is. Yeah,
and so that helps a lot with employee retention, things of that nature, which is killing everyone right now.
Oh my gosh, we're seeing that all over the place in our clients, and I think what's great is there's a growing appreciation for the need of that, where these companies are really focusing on. This is something that we can't just give out Amazon gift cards and pizza parties. And this is not working, So really being intentional and thoughtful about your well-being strategy as a company is something we're seeing.
Yeah, I mean, you see all those like the memes all the time that are the what is it? I'm overworked and stressed, and it's like a pizza party from the boss.
Exactly.
Getting ahead of that. Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And then, so I did want to dive deeper into ERP systems, because I know that's where a lot of these synergies are kind of created. The big one, right, between OAG and MITG. And so I guess I'd say when is the right time in the process of taking on a new ERP system? Like, this is kind of similar to the periodically with risk assessment, to bring in MITG. Do you need a certain lead time, or is that something where you say, all right, whenever you want to make this work, we can kind of implement ourselves and fit our services in that sense?
Yeah, no, I think it's really a life cycle. And so I think the right time is when there's a recognition that systems really aren't meeting needs today. Right? I think there are a lot of our clients who are kind of on old systems. They really can't get the data or reports to make decision making. I think that's a key indicator for a lot of folks. But it's how do you take the first step? Where do you begin? It's a huge, huge undertaking. And so we see the first step in that life cycle as really a needs assessment. So, here's what needs aren't being met. What do you want to do in the future? And really, what are your options here? How do we even approach this? And so that's kind of where we've been involved in to some extent. And then once you have a good handle on that, it's really oftentimes leads to a software procurement. And so I know there are several options. We were talking about Sage earlier before we started recording. I mean, how do you know which software product is going to best meet your needs? And so that's kind of going through identifying specific requirements and working to know what you need, and then showing vendor demonstrations, understanding level of fit, and ultimately kind of contracting with that vendor, and we can support that. And then the next piece would be around implementation. And I think that's something that your team would handle, depending on the products.
And I do think that's where we start to see those major, we have the word here, synergies between the two, is kind of giving you that full life process with ERP systems. Because I mean, so I know in the outsourced accounting group, the main one we've been seeing a lot that people have been taking on is NetSuite, which it's really been with new clients that we've kind of brought on, and seeing them, people get the system, And I talked to you the other day about we had someone we were talking to, and we were like, "Oh, you guys should have used MITG months ago, and you could have been in good shape." But they get in there, and once they're in, it's okay. Well, where do I pull the reports I used to pull? Where do I get the information that I need for vendors, 1099s? This all used to be what I was used to, and at a click of a button, which still is, but they just don't know where to look. And sometimes it helps to have MITG bring in the software and then have OAG show you the roadmap to using it, which I think is a fantastic thing that we didn't even realize existed until you and Kathy Parker started talking.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, BerryDunn is really, I mean, has grown so much. I think that the services we offer are really full suite of these things. And I think the more that we can kind of connect the dots internally to better serve our clients, the better off we're going to be, and the better off they're going to be, right? The more with a kind of a seamless experience for them. I think we're starting to do that more and more, which is great. Yeah.
And so what do those, I mean, so an ERP system, right? And OAG's in there, if we're all working together, you have continuous follow-up, right?
Sure.
So what does that look like when, let's say it's you're implementing risk assessments, whatever you're doing, well-being, what's the follow-up process look like with MITG? How are you guys staying connected, right? Are you, you're following up, making sure clients are seeing the certain results? And
one of the areas that I focus most on is around kind of that digital and organizational transformation piece. And so that's where I will oftentimes we'll create we'll go in, we'll do all sorts of fact finding with our clients with different stakeholders from across, whether it's a university or a commercial client, and to understand kind of what are your needs, and then here are some very clear and pragmatic recommendations to kind of move them along and kind of work towards those goals. And oftentimes this can't be done in a year, right? It's year 1, year 2, year 3. And so we'll put together kind of very specific roadmaps, and then we'll follow up with them. Right? I mean, how did this work out? Where are you now? And I think our recommendations are helpful, but they're only helpful if they can implement them. Right. And so we really want to understand kind of their progress. So it's usually largely informal check-ins and just saying, hey, how you doing? What progress have you made? Those sorts of things. Other services are more kind of annual. You need a risk assessment, those sorts of things.
So that's happening consistently.
It really depends on the type of service that we offer. But when it is a longer term plan, absolutely, we're following up to check in, and any support we can get, or just encourage our clients to give us a call. Right, we're always there for support.
And I feel like that person side of things always helps. That personable side of things, which kind of brings me into our next topic. Sure. Because we were. For the listeners at home, I had the opportunity to join MITG in their AI day. It was a full day that was based around kind of the artificial intelligence side of technology. And I've seen it from the accounting standpoint, but to hear about all these different techs out there and what's happening in healthcare, what's happening in the higher ed side of things was definitely eye-opening to me. So I wanted to kind of take a chance to talk about AI.
Sure.
And kind of where you see AI playing a role, maybe within some of these, I guess we could say within some of these healthcare or maybe not the well-being side, but these kind of services MITG is providing, and where you see AI filling in or fitting in, I should say, not filling in.
Sure. I guess starting kind of what is the value of AI, right? And what do we, I think AI is kind of, if you think of like the hype cycle, right? People are very excited for it, but like, what do you actually do in practice with AI? And I think a couple of the ways I see it working out are really the automation of routine tasks that people don't really want to do, right? But also just the analysis of vast amounts of data. And so I think that can help to kind of streamline operations in all of our clients, and so, but I think there's really, it's not clear on how yet to use it or how to implement it or how to improve processes. And so that's kind of where I see an opportunity is really helping clients. We talked about that assessment to then that implementation, like here's where we think you could implement AI based on our experience and how we've even done it as a firm once we get there, but then also let's help you do it. And I think that's what I would see ultimately. We don't do that yet. I mean, AI is so new.
I don't think really anyone's doing that.
But I mean, I think there's going to be a huge need for that, and I think we're certainly working to develop that expertise and experience to be able to help our clients with that.
Yeah, and so with AI, I know there's a lot of people who are afraid of it, right?
Oh, yeah.
They say, information. We at the conference we kept calling things Skynet because iRobot. And it's getting Vicky taking over everything.
Yep.
But so do you see major risk factors in AI, or maybe if there aren't major, what do you see as the potential risks early on?
Yeah, I mean, I think early on, I see people misusing tools such as like ChatGPT, and I think we've seen examples of that where whether it's lawyers kind of citing kind of things that don't exist, or a bit large companies entering like sensitive data into ChatGPT and think, well, what happens? Well, I don't know. It's theirs now. So I mean, I think that is kind of the most pressing risk. Longer term, I don't know how long. I mean, I think there is going to be automation of tasks, right? And I think that's going to have an impact on white collar jobs. Right? And I think we're near probably the peak of white collar jobs once this really gets rolling. But we'll see. And I think there just needs to be a lot of education around AI, how to use it, but it's also going to create a lot of new jobs too. And hopefully for us, that means we can offer better services, right? Those things that we can be more efficient in some cases, or we can be more effective and look at larger amounts of data, right? But what we can focus our efforts on, maybe it's the change and kind of how people adopt that change in an organization versus kind of the technical detail crunching of things. And so I think it's going to change how people do work, including us. I think it's going to change how we do our services and hopefully allow us to provide more value to our clients.
Yeah, and speaking from the outsourced side, accounting, I mean, I see it the same way, right? How much value do you get from me entering your checks in QuickBooks, right? It's tedious work. If AI is taking care of that, and we get the opportunity to really advise versus do what I refer to as the hands work.
Absolutely.
It makes a huge difference in the value we can give to companies. And I think every service that we provide here is BerryDunn. So I have a lot of high hopes in that way for AI, as long as it does not turn into Skynet.
I don't think we're there quite yet. Hopefully we can steer clear of Skynet. We'll see.
And it was incredible to see some of the stuff about like how AI was, I think it was produced by ChatGPT that created the benefits of what AI could do. And it was talking about self-driving cars, that's how they talk to each other and that's how it would work. And it's all interesting to see the dynamics of AI. Thanks for joining us today. It was a pleasure having an opportunity to talk to you and kind of hear more about MITG. Hopefully we can have you on again sometime as things continue to develop.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, ladies and gentlemen, catch us next time here on Outsourced Accounting Insights with more exciting topics to come. Thank you.